They're a Japanese blade, which tend to be like a little bit sharper. And you want to find ones that have that angle where there's like the little tilt at the top so that it can kind of rock forward.
If you've ever thought you don't know how to sew, you'd like to learn, or you thought, oh, I'd love to sew again, but I don't have a sewing machine, you can come to the Spool Sewing Studio here on 6th Street. Nicole is the young entrepreneur who started this business.
The whole reason I started this business was how many people I knew who would say like, well, I've got a machine, but it's been hiding in my closet for like 5 years because I can sew, but I can't fill a bobbin. Or, you know, just I can get it started, but there's a problem, I'm just stuck, I don't know where to go. And so I started sewing with friends, just teaching them. And then this kind of grew out of being a home-based business to a downtown business pretty organically.
Once you come to class, you'll get all of your materials, your equipment, your cutting implements, and you'll learn how to sew. You can make rope bowls, you can make t-shirts, you can make clothes. The sky's the limit.
We also have classes for men, so we have Bros Who Sew. We just did a session where they made t-shirts. And they came, some of them had already done some sewing with me, some of them were brand new. And so it's really trying to be inclusive. So we don't want it to feel like it's just a traditionally female space. We want it to be open to everybody. So we try to make a range of classes that makes it interesting for everyone. I usually like to cut my notches outwards. They're usually illustrated as being an inward triangle, so you would like cut them out. But with knits in particular, you can get a run, sort of like a run in your stockings. So I always like to cut mine out and then just trim them away after. A lot of people will come and start with our foundations class, and in that one you really learn how a machine works. So it's not just like sit down and use the machine, you really learn the principles so that you can troubleshoot on any machine. So you can go home and use your 30-year-old vintage machine and troubleshoot when there's problems. So foundations is a really great one for that, and they learn zippers and pillowcases, rope bowls, buttonholes, all in 4 weeks. From there, a lot of people will go into making garments. That's sort of a bigger range of classes for us, is garment making classes. So we have leggings, t-shirts, like sewing with stretchy fabrics, which can be really intimidating. And then we do some beginner quilting classes. And yeah, so people kind of learn how to follow a pattern, how to cut fabric really accurately. And also it's just always really fun. For parties, people will come and just not have as much principles behind the machines explained to them, but they just get to come in, make a project and go, and that's a really fun time.
For more information, you can go to thespoolstudio.com on the website or go to Facebook. From downtown Courtenay, this is Judi Murakami for Shaw TV. It is currently one of the eyesores of the Comox Valley, but it's going to be an amazing area that brings back wildlife, helps the salmon. Couscous or Unpave the Paradise is the newest project here in the Comox Valley. It's a collaboration and cooperative effort between the Comox Band, the City of Courtenay, and Project Watershed.
I've been working on conservation and ecosystem restoration projects in BC for the past 20 years. And the closest project to this one that I've been involved with was the restoration of the Campbell River estuary. There were 3 sawmill sites, log booming ground, barge loading terminal, lumber storage area, and things like that that were all involved in the restoration of that project. Given that that was such a successful program, I feel very confident that we'll be able to replicate that success here in Courtenay.
This site obviously has been impacted by the industrial activity that took place on it, and in particular the steel-clad retaining wall along the site really disconnects it from the Courtenay River, and seals are actually able to use that to their advantage to prey upon fish that are migrating past the site, and that includes juveniles that are out migrating in the spring as well as adult spawners that return in the fall. So we want to really see the connection restored back to the river again, have a more natural shoreline, and then have essentially little creeks and deeper pond areas for refuge for the fish to move through here.
When do you see this project finishing?
So there will be several phases to how the project unfolds. We have already completed the negotiations phase with the landowner to agree on a purchase and sale contract for the property. Now we're in the fundraising phase. We have 2 years to raise the funds that we need to purchase and restore the property. Assuming that we're successful with that, then we would like to get going on the restoration right away. So that would begin in more than likely 2019, maybe 2020 by the time we actually get things going. The initial restoration work will take a lot of heavy lifting, but can be done relatively quickly. So the major reshaping of the landscape, that kind of thing, doesn't take that long particularly, but months anyway. And then the planting, of course, takes a lot longer, and then we have to wait for the plants to become established and begin to grow before we really consider success. So it'll all going well, this site will look radically different and look just like nothing had ever happened here by about 2025.
Well, we're very fortunate that we have Hollyhock Marsh essentially adjacent to the site, because that really acts as a template that we can use to restore the biology back to this site. So what we're looking at are some tidal wetland channels. Of course, we want to reforest the area, and that's going to be good for fish, not just salmon, but trout as well, and also a lot of different bird species. This area is part of the Comox estuary, and the Comox estuary is an internationally recognized important bird area. There's also lots of wonderful plants that we want to see reestablished here. And again, we're using the template of Hollyhock Marsh and the plants that grow there at specific elevations to use as our blueprint for what we want to do on this site.
So if you'd like to donate to Couscous Sum, you can go onto the website for projectwatershed.ca or Couscous Sum. Go down to their office in Tin Town, stop in, get chocolate bars, art prints. Your donations are tax deductible if you're donating money, and make sure that you contribute to one of the Comox Valley's future treasures. From the Comox Valley, this is Judi Murakami for Shaw TV. I always find that good books and good movies always grab me right at the beginning. So what makes for good writing? The Comox Valley Writers Society is a long-standing society, and Terry James is here at North Island College. How long have you been involved as a writer?
Oh, I've been a writer for many, many years.
And what do you get out of it?
I get a lot of enjoyment, particularly at this stage of life, helping other writers get into print and have their memoirs published and things like that.
So Mia Pizzolo is one of the students here. And what do you enjoy about writing?
The creative aspect and getting to build worlds. I do a lot of fantasy writing, so I really enjoy getting to dive in and build new things.
And what got you involved in writing?
I actually have dyslexia, so when I was up till grade 3, I didn't read at all. And around grade 4, I started learning about dyslexia and improving my reading skills and became an avid reader. So now I'm like an obsessive bookworm. So after that point, I just kind of got sucked in the world of books. And yeah, so I don't know. Now I'm just obsessed with books, and it's become kind of my lifestyle. So I want to be an author and a cover designer.
I think that people have a hard time getting started writing, and they perhaps focus too much on those opening lines. You know, I've read accounts of authors who spent a year writing the first sentence of their book, and instead of just writing the book. So perhaps maybe the focus should be more on just getting going with the writing and getting over that first hurdle, as opposed to making it perfect. Right? Writing's never perfect; it's always a process. So getting that process moving is more important than the perfection of that opening sentence.
I think if you are a bookworm, then print is important, and I think print will always be important because it has its own life, and when you're reading a physical book, it's a lot more interactive. You can feel it, you remember things better. So and it has a wonderful smell. So it's pretty impossible for books to completely disappear, but I think my generation is definitely more technologically centered.
Well, out of our group of 40, I would guess that more than half of them have books that have been published. Some, however, are short story writers, or some have written travel articles, various types of writing. It isn't just book writing.
So are there certain techniques that people can learn? How to get people's attention right at the beginning?
We often tell people, especially when writing academic essays, which are not perhaps the most stirring subject matter, to start with an interesting question, to start with a surprising statistic, some kind of hook that gets the reader wanting to know more. That said, if your basic goal is to communicate information in a more technical writing sense, or sometimes business writing sense, then your readers probably aren't looking for that. They are there to gather particular information, so they're looking for a specific organizational structure and things like bullet points and headings to draw the reader along. Again, if you're talking about creative works, then what you want to avoid is getting your first sentence entered into that horrible Buller-Lytton competition that highlights the most embarrassing first sentence of a novel. So it was a dark and stormy night.
The Snoopy.
Yeah, exactly. You want to avoid that if you're a creative writer. So, yeah.
For more information, you can go to cvwriterssociety.ca. From North Island campus, this is Judi Murakami for Shaw TV.